Republicans have a new health care plan to replace the Affordable Care Act. Just kidding.
On healthcare, Senator, what is someone who has open enrollment starting November 1st supposed to do in response to the idea that it would take 3 to 4 months to coalesce around a plan?
Look, Obamacare is a total and complete disaster. Having the COVID era...
But what's Republicans' plan to counter that, I think is my question.
I'm answering it for you. Look, we can't fix Obamacare in 3 months. What I'm telling you is that the COVID era subsidies are a tiny fraction of any increase. The increase is happening because Obamacare is broken. It's a complete abject failure. There isn't a single Republican that voted for Obamacare. This is a Democrat plan. You should ask the next Democrat that you have on, what is your plan to fix your health care plan? Because it's objectively terrible.
That's Republican Senator Moreno out of Ohio answering Caitlin Collins going, well, you should ask the Democrats about their plan. They already have a plan. It's the Affordable Care Act. What's your plan? Do you have a plan? I don't think they have a plan.
I'm not defending Obamacare or the subsidies on that, but it has been 15 years. I know you've only been in the Senate. You're new to Washington, relatively new, but some people may say, well, there's been 15 years since Obamacare passed. We haven't seen a Republican plan to replace it.
Well, Obama was president for 4 years. President Trump was president for 4 years. And then, of course, Biden came in and made everything objectively worse. And by the way, you can't defend Obamacare because it's indefensible. You're
acknowledging there was a Republican president in between those two Democrats who's now back in office.
And Caitlin Collins is just ruining this guy. She asked him a simple question. He's like, well, Obama was there, and then Trump was there, and then Biden was there. Yeah, but Trump was there. Yeah, okay. So what's your point? The point is they don't have a plan. They don't have a plan, and they have not had a plan. They had what Trump called a concept, and some of their own are upset about it.
I think it's good advice that a government shutdown is going to help Republicans in the midterms. I don't agree with that. I also don't think it's good advice that Republicans ignoring the health insurance crisis is going to be good for midterms. I actually think that would be very bad for midterms. And I think that just not staying focused on America First policies is detrimental as well.
Marge dropping truths. When did this start happening? The world is going insane. And Ted Cruz doesn't care.
Well, Joe, my advice is don't spend much time worrying about Marjorie is saying. What I found is a pretty consistent pattern is that whenever an elected official decides that they're going to turn on Israel and they hate Israel, you will very quickly see every other policy out of their mouth become very, very liberal. And so suddenly Marjorie's for massive government spending and taxes, and she's for open borders and amnesty. Okay, fine. That is not where the American people are. Where the American people are is real simple. We're on day 29 of the stupidest shutdown.
So Marge is criticizing her party over the shutdown and over the rising costs for health care, and Ted Cruz pivots to Israel. He just decides to kiss the ring of AIPAC for no reason. Just throwing it out there. Maybe he wanted them to donate more money. I have no idea. But that was not the question, and that's where he went. And here's what real people are having to deal with health insurance costs.
This is what's really important. When you mention the monthly payment expected to more than double at the end of subsidies, that's the enhanced subsidies that help people pay some of those premiums. So let's look at a real example here. For some people out there who might have been paying $888 for their care this year, next year, $1,904. You can imagine for a lot of people who don't have a lot of money, that is a real backbreaker. That's kind of a backbreaker for a lot of people who are doing fairly well. So that's the big worry here.
There you have it. Some people who are having struggles already financially are going to see their health insurance double in prices. The prices are going to go up. This is a long, long battle we've had because Republicans have always hated having some sort of government-run health care. They feel it's socialist. They feel that it's too much government. They feel that it should be in the private sector. And anybody who's got health insurance, you and me both know, the private companies don't do much of a better job. Private companies are very good at finding ways to say no to you. That's what they're good at doing. Sure, sometimes they come through. Sure, sometimes they get you what you need. But quite often, you're surprised. Every one of us has been surprised at some point when you submit some claim to your health insurance to go, oh, yeah, page 942 of our pamphlet actually says, if you read the fine point, this procedure wasn't covered. We've all seen that. So health insurance is broken for years and years. And for years and years, the Democrats were trying to pass some sort of government-subsidized health insurance some sort of help for people who can't afford health insurance. And that's what Obamacare was. And it passed very, very slim, by a slim margin. And if you recall, go look at the footage. They were back then, they were saying this is socialism. If Obamacare passes, the next thing they're going to do is they're going to take your guns, and the next thing they're going to do is take your rights, and you'll be living under a socialist totalitarian government. And that's just not what happened. What happened was people got health insurance. People that needed health insurance got health insurance. What happened was pre-existing conditions could not be a reason for health insurance companies to not take you on. Remember that? It used to be that if you had some kind of ailment or illness, health insurance companies could say, we're not going to cover you because you already have that thing. And part of Obamacare was to say, no, you can't do that. The whole reason somebody would come to you is because they need the health insurance. This person can't afford paying for this ailment that they have. Therefore, the health insurance company should cover them. But they used to not. But then Affordable Care Act came across, the Obamacare came across, and it started helping people. And a lot of people that needed health insurance got health insurance. And then in Trump 1, they tried to overturn it because, again, Trump hates anything that Obama did. So if you recall the famous video where they got really close to overturning, repealing Obamacare, repealing the Affordable Care Act, and it was John McCain who came into the Senate and he went like this and he goes, boom. He goes, I'm not giving it to you. We're going to keep the Affordable Care Act, because he understood that people needed health insurance. No matter how rich or poor you are, you need health insurance. And the government, sure, it's not perfect, like that first Senator Moreno was saying. It's not perfect. It's got its problems, but it's a program that's been helping people. And what's going on right now because of the shutdown, one of the reasons the shutdown is happening is because Republicans were going to allow the prices to increase for a lot of this lower income health insurance assistance. And that's what the gentleman was talking about there on CNN, is that people are going to see their costs double, go up. And the Democrats said, we will agree to funding the next Congress or whatever, the next budget. But they said, you need to guarantee right now that you're not going to raise these costs on subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. And the Republicans said, oh, no, just go ahead and pass the budget, and then in December, we'll go ahead and lower those costs again, which is you can't trust these Republicans now, the way they are in this Congress. So therefore, the Democrats have held tight, and they have not given in to the demands, and they're saying you need to guarantee us that these costs are not going to go up, because the ordinary person suffers. All right, the rich donors and those folks who donate to Mr. Ted Cruz and others, they're fine. They can afford, probably concierge medical service. That's probably what they're getting. But most people need some sort of help, some sort of subsidy. And the problem with the Republican plan is there is no plan. Because for the longest time they said repeal and replace Obamacare. They have no replace. If you recall, during the elections, Donald Trump was asked, I think at a debate maybe, what's your plan? What's your healthcare plan that's going to replace Obamacare? And he goes, well, we have some concepts for a plan. Concepts for a plan. Years, after 8 years, he was in office 4 years. He was out of office 4 years. That gave him 8 years to work on a plan. There's no plan. And now we're 9 years in. 9 years. 4 years, and now his first year. Still no plan. Moreno doesn't have a plan. Moreno's plan is ask the Democrats what their plan is. Their plan is Affordable Care Act. What's your plan? You can't just avoid the question by saying, you know what? I know you are, but what am I? That's basically what he just said. I know you are, but what am I? Right now, Republicans are in charge of the House of Representatives, the Senate, as well as the presidency. And somehow they're trying to blame the shutdown on Democrats. That's just logically doesn't even make sense. You guys have the majority. You should be able to pass this budget as needed. And the way they would pass it is they would actually negotiate with some of the Democrats and get them to support what they both agreed to, and then they would pass it. But what's happened is Mike Johnson has sent the Congress home. Get out of here. We're not even going to negotiate. There's really no negotiations going on. Donald Trump just keeps insulting the Democrats. That doesn't help with negotiations. And here we are in day whatever it is of the shutdown, and people are starting to suffer. And people who need meals are not going to be getting their meals. We saw that a lot of these government agencies, you got the air traffic controllers, are supposed to go to work but not get paid. Yeah, really? Some dude gave $130 million. The guy from the last name Mellon, he gave $130 million to pay for the soldiers, so that the soldiers get paid. By the way, there's 1.3 million soldiers, so that's $100 each. They each got $100, I guess. So it's all being very mismanaged. It's all being very mismanaged, and they have no plan to cover it. It's so easy for someone to be on the outside and criticize, but then the question becomes, well, what would you do? And they go, I don't know. This is called Monday morning quarterbacking. This is called, they should have called that last play. They should have let them throw. Why'd they run it? How would you have done it? You would have run it. And what's your strategy? What's your experience in this? What do you got? And you saw Senator Moreno of Ohio saying, we don't got nothing. They ain't got nothing. You know what they want? They want the private insurance companies to keep making money. They want the private insurance companies to keep raising our costs. They want the private insurance companies to get richer and richer and richer because those are their donors. And supposedly private enterprise can manage things a lot better than governments. And that's not the case. There's no absolute rule to that. Sure, there's bureaucracy. Sure, there's difficulty. Sure, there's problems with the Affordable Care Act. But let's get together and fix it. Let's get together and not call it socialism when you give some poor soul who needs health insurance a little bit of health insurance. Why are we like that in this country? This country does not take care of its own. This country tells people, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Well, maybe somebody had a hard time growing up where they grew up and had a hard childhood and had a hard life. And now they're trying to get their lives together and they can't afford health insurance because one time if they get injured, they go to the hospital, broke, because these things are so expensive. And let's not forget, all of this talk about let's not give health insurance to people who need health insurance. And meanwhile, they just spent something like $40 billion they sent to Argentina. They just gave themselves a huge tax break. The Affordable Care Act was a huge tax break to billionaires. They just gave billionaires a tax break, but they can't, God forbid, they give health insurance to people that need health insurance. And I'll tell you why they're not going to give health insurance to people who need health insurance. Because they got no plan, man. They got no plan. I'm comedian Maz Jobrani. I've got a YouTube page right here where I post comedy. Give it a follow. Let me know you found me from Rebel HQ and hope to see you at a live show as well. I'll be touring, so go to mazjobrani.com. Check me out.